Oops. Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. It's a gorgeous Saturday out here because it's a weird one. Our high is only going to be 79, which is odd because, like, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, we were in the high 90s. So, uh, I'm welcoming it. It's going to be rainy all day today, which I have no issues with. Totally excited about it. Uh, but yeah, it's just really weird because my air conditioner is not having to work hard today. It's going to have to work a different way to get the humidity down, but that's besides the point. Uh, it's been a interesting week this week. I've had to work from home all week because I might be contagious. Hopefully, I'm out of the contagious phase. I had a small bout of pink eye, um, which, as many times as somebody touches their face and around there, I was like, I need to make sure I don't accidentally spread this to my coworkers because that's something you don't want to give your friends or even in some cases enemies. So today, I think I woke up a little bit less crusty than the past few days. So I'm happy if I am getting out of it. Let's see, who do we have in the chat today? We have so far two people. We have Candace. Good morning, Candace. And we also have Jeannie. Good morning, Jeannie. It's a quiet morning. I have been up since just before 6. I think we might have had a power flicker or something because my internet went out again. I have a battery backup on the little device that's in the garage, but the battery in that thing is dead as a doornail. So anytime we have a power flicker or even a power outage, that thing goes down and is beeping and alarming's going off, and I'm like, I got to get the new battery put out there. I just haven't had time. So luckily, all I had to do was just plug it directly into the wall, which means, if we have another power outage, I can't get on the internet. I keep my stuff on power UPSs, battery backups, even my internet stuff, just because if something goes down, I want to make sure that I can still connect to stuff to shut everything down properly. It is what it is, though. So today, I have now decided that I am going to start on graduation quilts. I have two graduation quilts to do. One of them is about, I'm just going to say, less than a quarter done because I've got some of the units done and I know I have everything cut. I just need to find them again and start putting them into the other unit. There's a block A and a block B, and those aren't done yet. And then the other one that I'm doing, I just started cutting yesterday because I was like, let me get these done because there's a lot of cutting. I believe it is 336 half square triangles I've got to cut, which I wouldn't complain so much about, except they use the strip tube method, and that means you can only cut one out at a time, and it's just a long, boring process. At least if I do like triangulations, I can cut a whole bunch of lines together and get. I didn't know this. Well, I did know it. I just didn't know how much work it was going to be until I actually got stuff already cut. So I'm stuck with it. It is what it is. I'm not going to complain. But the pattern that I'm working on is called Star Power from Cozy Quilt Designs. Donna Jordan did a wonderful tutorial on it many years back, and that's what caused me to decide that's what I wanted to do for the college graduation quilts because it makes a gorgeous um, queen size quilt, and I do a queen size for college graduations because when that person decides to move out on their own, they have a large size quilt that they can put on their bed. Good morning, Ingrid. How are you today? So I cut all my strips yesterday, and today that's what I'm doing, the boring task of sewing strips together. So I apologize that the sewing cam is going to be a boring one, but we got to get these. The way that this pattern is written, whatever size, everything is cut from fat quarters, which means you're going to get a lot of variety because a fat quarter bundle has a lot of variety in it. And whatever size you cut the fabric in, you're doing strips out of the fat quarters, and then out of your background you take the strips and you just slice it in half so that you have stuff that lines up with each other. And we're just sewing on both sides of it. So throughout this, I'm probably going to be mostly sewing on one side, and then I'm going to end up turning around at the end and just sewing on the other side. And then we're going to take the pattern says a strip tube ruler. You can use your regular ruler if you want. You could also use the, what is that thing called? No, it's not. Yes, Clearly Perfect Slotted Trimmer. That's what it's called. You can use that to cut your triangles out as well at whatever size that it says. Can't give you the pattern numbers because it's not my pattern to give away, but let me just tell you, it goes pretty quickly. Good morning, Nina. I had to remember how to pronounce your name. But all I'm doing is just taking one side and I'm just making sure things stay pretty straight. It's easy because I have a 1/4 inch foot on here. Let me adjust this just a little. There we go. And I'm just letting the machine do all the work. I'm not pushing, I'm not pulling. I'm just doing what I can to kind of keep it straight. Good morning, Joydy. How are you today? And the pattern for the queen size says 14 fat quarters. So, and we're doing 2 strips for this portion of the block from each fat quarter. So that means I've got 28 of these strips that I've got to sew together. I mean, the good thing is I laid everything out last night, so I've got everything paired. I've got them facing the right direction together. That's one of my big issues that I have when I'm trying to sew is making sure that I have everything facing the correct direction. We know, what was it, a month ago when I had all of my Kona block of the months backwards? I do not want to have to worry about all of that. But I'm going to pull out the first piece and then also the second piece because I don't want to have something messed up. But what I'm going to do is everything is sewn on this side, which means all I have to do is just keep it flat and sew down the other side. This is going to be one of the days that it's just going to be a lot of long sewing. It's going to be a lot of thread. Jody is asking, does anyone know how to close a split screen keyboard on an iPad? I don't have an eye anything, but the answer that I would suggest is the one that I tell anybody for anything. Have you tried turning it off and turning it back on again? That usually solves most problems that I've had experience with. And then if you look at these strips, you have one side that you can't see anything with, but on the other side you can see your stitch lines, and then that's when you get your appropriate ruler. And I'm not going to do it now because I've got much better things to do. You line it up, like if you're using your regular ruler, you would line, you would end up, it's a lot of counting. Actually, you can do it like this. So if I needed a 2.5 inch cut out of here, I would line the 2.5 inch point here, the 2.5 inch point here, and with as many as I'm doing, I would probably put tape on it just so that I knew where it was. But you line it up on the stitch line, and then you cut and cut, and then it will give you your size that you need. If it was a 4 inch, and actually I can't cut a 4 inch out of this one, so if it was a 3.5 inch, I would line the 3.5 and the 3.5, and that gets us like that gets us like right to the edge. So it looks like 3.5 might be the largest that I can cut out of here. Again, I can't give you the pattern, so I can't tell you what size it is. But needless to say, I think we end up cutting like 8 out of each of these. Large numbers. Like I said, I think it's like 336 or 368, or it's a very large number of half square triangles that we are cutting using the strip tube method. So what I'm going to be doing while I'm chit-chatting with y'all is I'm just going to start sewing one side as we are chat, and if I make it to the end, then I'm going to flip everything around and start sewing the other side, because they all have to be sewn. Good morning, Jen. Good morning, Dubravka. How are y'all this morning? I was up extra early this morning because I was on Brekkie with the Guy Who Sews. My friend Sean, over on the Guy Who Sews, every Saturday morning he has a guest that he sews with, and he asked me to be on today. I need to complain that there wasn't any good breakfast hors d'oeuvres being served during the show, but I have a feeling he's going to just say, well, you should have brought your own. I did get some progress done. I had one block of dragon fruit that had not been completed. So I managed to get the last snail trail done. Let me pop this one off too, that way I know whatever is on the needle is all unfinished. So yeah, I've got the last dragon fruit block completed. I have a couple that need to be gone from the individual pieces to the 12-inch 4-patch, but that, obviously will just take a minute. And then whenever Stephanie decides that she is ready to host the live for finishing, which I think is going to happen in 2 weeks, if I remember correctly, I will be able to have the quilt top hopefully done that day. Good morning, Michelle, who says hi again, Russ. Sorry that I had pink eye. Yeah, it wasn't horrible. There was a little bit of pressure sensitivity around the eye. It was very amusing because I went to the wellness center at work, thoroughly expecting them to say, go away because you have pink eye. But she did not. The nurse practitioner, maybe she's a doctor, I don't know which, did not basically say, go home, but she also said, I can't tell you to stay either, that you're not contagious, because she didn't know. She prescribed antibiotics and said, you probably only need to fill this if it gets worse. And I'm like, okay, how to blah, 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 blah. I had my annual physical on Wednesday. So I saw the nurse on Monday, had the annual on Wednesday. And the doc goes, I would have filled the prescription and started using it. And I'm like, okay. So you're basically saying I should go on my way home, pick up that prescription. He goes, probably. And he even looked at it. He goes, yeah, you probably should have started the prescription. So stopped by the pharmacy on the way home. It was a 20-cent prescription. So paying with my card, it cost them probably more in transaction fees to process that 20 cents than, the 20 cents was given. But I started using the drops, and it's mostly cleared up. It's still a little red this morning when I looked, but as with my physical, I'm not quite dead yet. And I'm just... This is the most boring part about... No, I take that back. Cutting is going to be the most boring part. But just doing a whole bunch of long strips like this is... it's just mindless. Duvrock is asking, did I see any of Steven's trip videos? Such beautiful quilts. I did not get to yesterday's videos yet. The last video that I saw was, I believe, his Thursday video where he actually got to meet Kay Fassett. And I had seen that some of the quilt videos were posted. I had a bit going on last night after I picked up Riley from daycare, so I haven't had a chance to watch them last night. This morning I was, on with Sean, so I didn't get a chance to watch it before Sean. but that is on my list to do immediately after I am done with my live here. So uh, by mid afternoon, I will have watched, or I will have caught up with Steven's videos. Anytime I'm pausing, I'm just relining everything up, trying to keep things, like I said, as straight as possible. I was very excited to see that Steven was able to be posting every day. They seem to be having a lot of fun out there. I also was informed this week that due to different things going on in Haiti, apparently our cruise that we are doing in October, the itinerary has changed. I don't care either way. You know, it's a fun. It's going to be a fun cruise. I was I was excited to see the islands that we were going to travel to, but instead of Bermuda, Jamaica, and Haiti, we are going to two stops. Now I've lost the word. Where's my phone? I will figure it out. Um, it's Cozumel and Cozumel, Mexico, Rotan, Honduras, and Puerto Costa Maya, Mexico are our ports now. So it's going to be different from what I was initially anticipating, but I think it's still going to be a lot of fun because it was amusing. We had picked our Jamaica excursion that we wanted to go on. And then a few minutes later, I get a text. Did you see they changed our stuff? And I'm like, no. Because I never got that email that said that things have been changed. So luckily, my cabin mate did. And we ended up, I got the email that they refunded the excursion, and they hadn't, as of yesterday, updated the excursion list for the new ports. Jen is asking, how many tubes am I going to have to make? Well, from the what are these things go? From the fat quarters, it is 28 tubes. But then, and they're half tubes because a fat quarter is half of width of fabric. But then there is a number of full tubes that I have to make with the accent fabric. And I don't know what that number is yet. So I imagine next week is probably going to be sewing the other tubes once I get those cut. So yeah, it's a lot of tubes. And tubes aren't bad. Cutting from a tube is. And that's just my opinion. I'm not saying, cutting from a tube is just the most horrible thing in the world. It's just, it doesn't work well with my brain. Charlotte, good morning, Charlotte, says her daughter-in-law and grandson are heading to Galveston for a cruise. That's exciting. Yes, Jen. She says lots of boring sewing and cutting. Like, I understand in the grand scheme of things, this should be exactly the same as if I did everything the traditional way and was squaring up all my blocks. The difference is I don't necessarily do the traditional way with my half square triangles. I prefer triangulations, which ends up being a few cuts less than the traditional way. I mean, you still have to, cut your sides, your left, right, top, and bottom. But some of those, you can get multiple half square triangles out of one cut. So, in my mind, triangulations, I'm doing fewer cuts. It may not be many fewer cuts, but it is a couple fewer cuts. If I was doing this the traditional way, yeah, it's about the same number of cuts in the end. And I would be squaring up the same number of half square triangles. So it's not like, in most cases, I'm saving a thing. It's just cutting out of a strip tube. Excuse me, feels like a lot more work than squaring up half square triangles. For whatever reason, it just feels like a lot more work. And it's probably because I've never had to do 338 half square triangles at one time before this pattern. I may not even make it through one direction of all of these. And if I don't, that just means all I have to do is just a little bit of homework after this to get the rest of these done. And I'm probably going to start working on the cutting, because it is going to be several hours. You can't even stack and whack with these, because if your sew line is a thread or two off on a lower piece, then your half square triangles are going to be a couple threads off as well, and that's going to impact the size of your block. And these are small blocks it is, so it's not like I can do a little bit of finagling to make them all the right size. Good morning, Linda's Trendy Threads, who says hello, everyone. And when I'm doing the accent ones, I think on some of them I end up cutting the accents in half, just so that they were the same size as this. On others, I know I did the accents as the full length, so I don't think it matters as much as long as you get the right number of half square triangles out. I do not like using the center fold of a strip in my project anyway, because that, no matter how much ironing and pressing and moisture you put on it, sometimes that crease just never goes away. So I'm not a fan of using it if I can help it. And then this morning, going back to the cruise, my sister laid some very disappointing news on me. I had texted her right after I looked at my time hop and said, I'm going to lose my 3,000 plus day time hop streak when I go on my cruise, because I'm not paying $20 a day for internet. And she responded with, you're also going to lose your Wordle streak. And I was like, no! Because I think in the family chat, she and I are the only ones who haven't lost our Wordle streak. I think. I may have lost it at one point early on or something. But since the New York Times bought, well, even before the New York Times bought it, the streak was like, it reset a couple times. So I don't even know how many day streak I would technically have. And she goes, maybe you want to buy the internet. I was like, I can't justify, let's see, $140 for a few days of internet just so that I can play Wordle. It's not worth it in my opinion. I figure it's just going to be exciting enough to be able to just say, I can just completely disconnect from everything. I don't have to worry about work while I'm there for the first time in ever. I won't have to worry about anything. And like, I don't have any family members who might have any medical issues. It's just going to be properly a week of Russ doesn't have to do anything. I will have to figure out what's going to go on for the week or the couple weeks around it, because what is it, the 8th, not the 8th, the 4th, my sister is in town and my cousin, and I don't know if we will be able to do a live, mostly because I don't have, Vegemite, a new recipe of Vegemite something to torture my sister with, or my cousin. So probably will not be live on October 4. And then October 11 is the day that I'm flying out. And October 18, I think is that day. Yeah, is that Saturday. I will be on a boat. I will have no internet access. So it's like 3 weeks I will not be able to do lives. So I got to figure out what I'm going to be doing. I do have a idea for a pre-record to do on one of those days. But I got to figure out what to do on the other days. And I'm only doing it because the YouTube algorithm dislikes it when you skip your days. And if there's anything you don't want to be doing is getting the YouTube algorithm upset. Hello, Julie, who says, hello, Russ and my friends. How are you this morning, Julie? Okay, I'm going to take these and sew on the other side because this pile behind me is getting a little unmanageable. Good morning, Colleen. How are you today? I have no idea how many of these I've gotten sewn up, but like I said, the pile behind the machine is just getting to the point where I can't push it anymore. So I'm just going to grab all of these off and just sew the other side. And the other side is easier to sew because you don't have to sit there and try to reline everything up together. It's already lined up. You just got to make sure it stays flat. Julie says, so happy to stop in for a bit of sewing. Been crazy working the hay fields. I can imagine. And Linda is asking, what am I making? This is the pattern. It is called Star Power from Cozy Quilt Designs. It requires a metric ton of strip tubes, and then you cut your half square triangles from the strip tubes, and it's something like 336 half square triangles that I have to actually, let me do the math real quick. Good morning, John of Guys Craft 2. Calculator. There are 3 triangles in each unit. There's 4 units in each square, and there's 28 squares. 336. So I was correct in my math numbers. Colleen says she's putting the last border on the table runner she did last week. 40 half square triangles of border. Well, hopefully your half square triangles are going to go a lot faster than this one. Like I said in my rant earlier, this is probably about the same amount of time if I decided to do my half square triangles the traditional way. In fact, it's actually faster because, you know, cutting a strip tube is a lot faster, even if you stack and whack, than cutting a whole bunch of squares for your half square triangles to make the traditional way. But yeah, if anything, it is boring. So we will see what progress I will have made in the next few days to see what I will be working on next week when we're sewing the graduation quilts together. And as I said earlier, the credit for me picking this pattern goes to Donna Jordan of Jordan Fabrics. She did a tutorial on it probably about 5 years ago. Because when I saw it, I was like, ooh, that would be a great graduation quilt. Not realizing that, or not thinking that they just do one block in the instructions. So that's always been that horrible. The problem with the magic of TV is sometimes you just don't realize how much time something takes. That's the way I'll say it. I love the magic of TV because it's like one, two, skip a few, 99, 100. Because, you know, if you had to sit and watch somebody do every single step all 700 times that you have to do that step, people wouldn't be quilting. But if you have that luxury of saying, okay, this is how you do each step, you get in your mind, oh, that's not as bad as I thought it would be. And then all of a sudden you're like, why did I agree to do this? It's still awesome. Joydy, did you figure out your keyboard thing? Did you restart your device? Or did Google help figure it out? I just don't know how to use anything, so I am completely useless. And I don't think it really matters if you go up one direction and down the other with these. If you're sewing a whole bunch of strips together, some people will suggest go up, down, up, down, up, down, because you could potentially be stretching your fabric a little bit unintentionally. But because we are cutting triangles out of this, I don't think it really matters if you are going up, down, up, down, up, down. And I know what I'm about to say is a controversial take, but I will take it. I heard that yesterday new episodes of Mrs. Brown's Boys started out on whichever BBC channel that they are. So I'm like, I need to find a way to watch these because Mrs. Brown's Boys is one of my favorite shows. So hopefully, I know occasionally they will get uploaded to the YouTubes. So when I'm done with this, I need to check to see if a new episode has been uploaded yet. But I'm very excited for more new episodes. Yes, I understand. The jokes are stale. I, I think there was episodes from last season, last series, whichever language you want to use, that they would say something, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's the joke that they're gonna do. So they're stale jokes now, but they're still hilarious. And if y'all haven't figured out what Mrs. Brown's Boys is, later go to the YouTubes and search for Mrs. Brown's Boys Wax, WAX, and Mrs. Brown's Boys Sticky Situation. Those two in itself are really what got me into wanting to watch that show. And they weren't one-off gags. There are hilarities similar to that go on in just about every episode. There's also an episode, I think it's in the first season, if it's not the first, it's the second, that just makes me cry every time I watch it, just because it is sad, and it brings back sad memories of just one day, because a lifetime of fun, a single day of heartbreak. And that ends up happening in one episode. Good morning, Maritza's Yarn and Crafts. How are you today? Like I said, sewing the opposite direction tends to go a lot faster because we don't have to force keep everything lined up. probably would have been a little bit better if I had pressed in between, but these are, due to the size of them, they're going to be so much easier uh, to iron on my giant pressing mat. Good morning, Anne Carmichael. Says lurker quilter by collection. Never learned how to thread a machine, but love watching how the sausage is made. She once made a lap quilt by hand eons ago. Okay. The fact that you made a lap quilt by hand amazes me because I refuse to sew by hand. Even binding, I refuse to sew by, well, I will sew by hand if it's something that is like special enough or a certain project. But I could not imagine piecing by hand, and I have seen the results of piecing by hand, and it's amazing. So I give you awesome cred for just those skills. I was talking with somebody yesterday who saw some of the quilts. They're part of my online dating profile. Not that I get any hits from that, but yeah, he sent me a message and says that he went to school for fashion design. And I was like, I haven't sewn any type of clothing since high school home ec. And because I am so accustomed to my 1/4 inch on my sewing machine now from quilting, I'd probably never be able to actually, sew clothing ever again. And he just kind of giggled. He's like, yeah, I can understand that. But he was, very mesmerized by some of my quilt projects, which, is awesome. Okay, let's see. I've got more left over here than I will have time to sew on camera, but that's okay. We will just go until our time is up. It does amaze me the people who can do the sewing of clothing. Like I said, mostly because I did it once in high school, home ec, and I just, I don't think I enjoyed the process enough, which is why it took me who knows how many years to even think about getting a machine to do quilting. Because as a kid, I was mesmerized by mom's sewing machines. I thought they were the coolest things in the world, and I wanted to use them, but was never taught. And then I didn't know that you could do anything besides clothing on a sewing machine as a kid. So that's probably why I never did anything. If I had known as a kid that quilting is perfectly acceptable, and if quilting was an option in home ec for sewing, I probably would have thought to do something like that. But we did not have those options. Not that I would have known how I would have been able to get it quilted. I would have had a quilt top and been like, I don't know what to do with this. Because I just know high school me would have wanted to do like a twin size quilt. I had to think of which bed I had in high school. If I would have done a quilt that size, or if I would have tried to do a lap size quilt or wall hanging or something. Because yeah, there was no way that I would have been able to do a twin set. Plus, home ec, we did not get to take our homework home, mostly because there was no guarantee that people had sewing machines at home, much less allowed to use them. So yeah, I really have no idea how, if I would have been able to do a quilt, how I would have been able to get it finished. And also, you know, at the time, I didn't know that there was any fabric shops out there. To get our stuff for home ec, mom did the shopping without me. And basically, I was like, well, I need this and this and this. So she just picked out, like, I was like, I want a gray fabric for this. So she picked out the gray, she picked out the white. I think she even ended up picking out the pattern. I don't remember. But again, that was Russ not knowing anything those years ago. And I just look back and I'm thinking, if I had it all over to do again in home ec, first of all, I would not have done that pattern for my whatever, because we had actually for the clothing that I made. I was like, I would never have made that pattern, and I probably would have been smarter and did different colors. But that's why you do things so that you can learn. Because even with the table runner pattern that we did last week for the Christmas in July pattern, I love the fabrics that I chose. Looking at them through the camera lens, there's not a lot of contrast, or it doesn't appear to be a lot of contrast in the camera lens. You see everything in person. It's just harder to see in the camera. And I'm like, if I wanted something that would have been better on camera, I should have chose these types of fabrics, these types of colors. But I didn't. I wasn't planning them for for camera. I was planning them for in-person singing. So it was another live and let learn, or whatever the phrase is, live and learn. And I love that about our stuff because, you know, one person may say from a distance even that it's not enough contrast or they don't like it. And another person will say, oh, that's just gorgeous. I love even those fabric choices you picked. So I do like a lot more contrast than I did. But like, it's different lighting and everything else. So it worked. And if you give somebody a finished piece and they make a comment that this or this or this, they're not quilt worthy. That should have been one of the things I learned about one of the guys I dated. I showed him one of my quilt blocks. First thing he did was point out how these points didn't match. I was like, you do realize this is like quilt block number 2 or 3 that I've ever done. I think I did a pretty good job. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 more over here that I need to get done, plus however many sitting on the sewing machine. So I will do those as homework. And then, like I said, I'm going to start doing some of the cutting and some other organization of stuff just so that I can get these done because I want to have them done before October. Just because I'm going to see Stephanie in October, my friend Stephanie of Quilting with Stephanie Stitches, and if I see her then, I want to be able to give her the quilt tops and backings and say, hey, can you quilt these? And then have her bring them back to me in December when I see her at her December retreat here in Georgia. Uh, if I don't have them done by October, I will have them done by December and give them to her there, and then have her bring them or mail them back to me, which is what I did last year. No, I did not do that last year. Last year, I worked on them, and I finished them like 3 weeks later, and I had to mail them to her, and she had to mail them back. So it's like I would like to save at least one of us, if not both of us, the shipping costs of getting things back and forth. But that's a different thing. I'm going to cut it here and get my homework done. I hope everybody has an awesome rest of your day. Check out all the YouTube love out there. I will be back on Wednesday with my weekly vlog of all the shenanigans that have happened. I'll give you full updates of, my physical, which that wasn't exciting, and see if I'm back to 100% yet with my eye problem and everything. So, and then I think something exciting might be happening soon. We will see. So, have a great day. Toodles!